Hey PC gamers, and welcome back to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I am Lauren Morton, and I'm here with Mollie Taylor.
Hey everyone.
And this week, Mollie and I are going to play a little bit of show and tell again. We are bringing with us some answers to games that we each think are overhyped and underhyped and exactly right hyped. I apologize. This comes to you by way of TikTok trend because one of us is a horrible TikTok user and is constantly watching out for the discourseable videos, and people have been enjoying doing this with other topics. So I made Mollie do it with me for video games. We're gonna talk a little bit about things that maybe we think don't deserve all the love they get, or just like not quite as much, and then things that deserve a lot more or have just the right amount. But anyway, before we get to that, Mollie, what did you do last week?
Yeah, so I have been back on my rhythm game, like my very on brand rhythm game BS as per usual. I've been playing a ton of this PC rhythm game called DJ Max. I am trying my best. It's so much fun, but accuracy is so important, and I don't have very good accuracy. So that's been my mission. I've been going through all of the songs because I have every single song pack now as well, which is
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about how much money that has cost me. But I have every single song pack now, so I'm just going through all the songs, trying to get good accuracy. I've yet to get 100, but I'm getting 98s, 99%, so doing pretty good. I've been playing a bit of that, and I've also really been back on the Phasmophobia grind.
Oh, okay.
It is 2023, and I am playing a ton of Phasmophobia. They released an update last month, which was a huge overhaul to how the game works. They've reset everybody's levels. You earn equipment in a super different way now. I think it was called the Ascension update or something, but it's been a huge overhaul. It's done a ton of it's changed a ton of ways that you play the game. It's changed a ton of the equipment. So a few of my friends dove back in, and it's so much fun. It's a lot harder than it used to be as well. I feel like you could get into a very predictable pattern with Phasmophobia. You bombed in, you knew exactly what to do, you knew how to get the evidence, and you could get in and out on high difficulties pretty easily. We're playing on intermediate, and we're having a really hard time.
They really chase you now, yeah.
Yeah, it is way harder than it was before, but in a very good way. We're having a ton of fun. We've been playing a few games of that every night for a week now. And I forgot how easy it is to just do the most messed up shenanigans in that game. It's so funny. We've been having a really good time just messing with each other and trying to get each other killed and playing voodoo doll roulette.
Yeah. My friends have started trying something called Demonologist, which is effectively just like Phasmophobia, right? But it came out in March of this year. And I also in early access. I have not yet tried it out. I, for some reason, have just not been around on the nights they've been playing. So I need to give that a shot too and see. I think it's prettier, but I don't as we know with Phasmophobia, that doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with how enjoyable it is. So I need to try Demonologist and see whether it's as cracked up as they make it out to be or not.
Yeah,
but
you should do that. My friends have been playing it, but I haven't. I'm also in the same boat as you, so
I'm so used to Phasmophobia. Let's see. What did I do this last week? Oh, yeah. I am fully in my predictable couple week era at this moment, since not playing Starfield yet. Really close. By the time people listen to us, I think you and I will be playing Starfield on that day. But as of today, have not gotten to play Starfield just yet. So over the weekend, in lieu of that, I was back in Palia, the social MMO crafting gardening game, because it's just so easy to get in a routine. I'm a sicko MMO player. I have not recovered. They started their first seasonal event, which is this cute little night market thing. I think I talked about this last week right before I got the chance to play it. And it's cute. It's fun. You go each in-game night, which is once every hour, to this night market over on a different part of the map. And really, after you've done the first like pretty short quest line, the one thing that you do there is play this group mini game where you're all competing to catch the little critters and like put them back in their cage, the chappas. And it's cute, fun. And I think I wrote about this on the site last week that like that's exactly what I asked for when I was first talking about Palia. I was like, I want more like group events, like traditional MMO stuff of like, you know, Fallout 76 has them. Final Fantasy 14 has them. Like everything has like I'm not talking about seasonal events type things, but world event stuff that like ticks over every hour, different activities that people all come together and do that just makes something feel MMO-y, and I was missing in Palia. So it's small scale, that event. It's just the one, but it's a start and it's exactly what I was asking for. So I've been logging on and doing that to rack up tickets and get little decor pieces for my house because me and another one of my friends, she's been logging on lots to play too. So I've had reasons to go back. Yeah, that's been my last week while I wait for Starfield time. Pretty much.
We're in the Starfield waiting room right now. We're in the lobby, so
we are in the lobby waiting. Put me in, coach. So we'll be back to talk about that hopefully next week after we've gotten a chance to play. That's the plan at this particular moment. But now, Molly, let's get into it and talk about our picks for hyped games.
Yes.
Okay, Molly. So we're talking about overrated, underrated, and like right rated games, which I sort of cribbed from like TikTok trends happening on like the bookish space, as we know, a place where I go. I think it also is occurring in other like fiction enjoying spaces, like probably TV shows, other stuff like that people talk about, where people will be like, you know, let's talk about like two things I think are underhyped, overhyped, like hyped. It's a mix of rated or hyped, whichever you want. So of course we're going to like slightly pick some fights. I do want to start with the overrated games. And remember, Molly, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm not going to hurt your feelings personally. I'm really just like going to hurt my own feelings probably.
No, you will hurt my feelings. We're here to instigate, though. We're here to instigate. We're here to cause a little bit of drama, just for fun, you know, just for something to do,
just to feel alive. But it's okay because by nature of something being overrated, there are so many people who think it's wonderful that even if one of us says maybe it's overrated, you know, we're just two people. We're just two people out here on the internet.
Exactly, right? That's the beauty of games anyway, right? It's all subjective. You could be objective about some things with a video game, but I feel like you cannot objectively say something is bad because there will be one person out there,
that one hero in the trenches.
Yeah, that Dash playing Babylon's Fall who thinks that it's good while nobody else is rating it. So, you know, it's subjective. And I think as well, I sort of spoke to you a little bit about this before we started filming this episode, right? Is I feel like popularity definitely comes into what is considered overhyped or underhyped, right? Like an overhyped game is like, this is way too popular. Underhyped game is, this isn't popular enough. Perhaps we put too much merit into that sometimes. Like I think about games like Among Us. It's like everyone loved Among Us until everyone loved Among Us, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like I definitely feel like there's like,
and then it became cool to be like, no, I don't. It's whatever.
It suddenly became cool to hate it, and I think that's something, especially when I was trying to pick my like overrated game, especially, it was something I was trying to be really mindful of, was not just picking like the most popular game and be like, I don't like that. I don't know if you kind of went through the same thing of just being mindful.
I did too.
Of, like, like trying to think a little more carefully about, well, why is this game so popular, and like, is that for like really dumb reasons, or is that for reasons that are beyond my understanding? kind of
There's
thing, right?
definitely a certain level of like proliferation of a thing into like the internet and all of our spaces where, yeah, at a certain point you get like resentful and you're like, it can't be that good. It doesn't deserve it. And one of the other things I was thinking about in like the overrated stuff, and we'll get to talking about our picks shortly, but in overrated, I was like, I don't want to like dunk on any indie games as overrated,
Yeah.
even though I came up during a time when like the early indie darlings era, like when I started being like not just someone who played video games, but someone who thought about video games and like the
Mm-hmm.
wider context was like 2010 approximately. So we're just coming off of Braid. Everyone thinks
Agreed.
that Braid is the like the pinnacle of artistic thought in video games. Shortly after that, you get like Limbo, you get Bastion, and like I love Bastion. I
Yeah.
certainly do. But it was a solid like 5 to 7 years of like extremely self-serious, like art about art kind of indie games. Like that was really the vibe. And
Mm-hmm.
now in our current era, I would say like, 2019 on, or, give or take, is an era of like the indie darlings have become, and I can't, it's like fun for the sake of fun kind of, or like
Yeah.
stuff that's just like pure enjoyment. And that's not like across the board entirely, but when I think of something like Valheim or like a good crafting game, but everybody freaking
Yeah.
loved it because they're like, this is just so fun. It's not in like an artistic, thoughtful, like very serious necessarily game. It's just like, yeah, it rocks to be a Viking and go beat up the the bosses and like get your little armor and make your little houses. It's just like a totally different era of like hype for
Yeah,
indie games specifically right now.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So Molly, do you want to go first on your overhyped game, overrated
Yeah.
or overhyped, whichever way you went with it?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was trying to do some very careful thinking about this because,
Yeah.
like I didn't want to just be like, "Oh, Call of Duty is rubbish," because like I
Yeah.
I don't like Call of Duty. I played a few entries, but I didn't want to just
Are you about to?
automatically like I didn't want to hone in on it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to dunk on it, and then I was thinking like I don't want to dunk on Dishonored again because. Because if you're a regular listener, you will know that I do not vibe with that game in the slightest. That is a game that I do think is perhaps a little overrated, personally. But I didn't want to rant about it again. I've done that enough on this podcast. So I was thinking, I was really like trying to like rack my brain of what game has just been so beyond my understanding of its popularity, despite it perhaps being a game that I should enjoy, or that I do enjoy, but perhaps not to the extent that other people do, right? And I
Mhm.
really thought about it, and I decided, like, I think for me, and this isn't a hot take. This is quite a lukewarm take. I'm just gonna put that out there. I think Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII, is quite overrated. Now, like I said, not a hot take. This is by far
It
like
passes that threshold. If it's so popular, you're allowed to be like, it's not that great.
yeah, and like that's the thing, right? It's again, I think popularity definitely factors in to it somewhat, but I think Final Fantasy VII is such a special case as well, where it was the first 3D Final Fantasy game. We had just come off the back of 6, or like I think it was 3 in the US. Like it was Final Fantasy 6, but I think the US didn't start getting them until a few games in. So it was the first 3D Final Fantasy. I think it was a lot of people's entry point into the
Oh,
series as well,
certainly.
like people around like our age. For a lot of them, that was the first Final Fantasy game that they played, right? And I think those two things combined kind of made that game like a lightning in a bottle moment,
Hmm.
and caused it to perhaps become bigger than it would have if it had released in a different time, or had it released, like, say if 9 had released first. I wonder if like 9 would be held in the same regard as 7 if like those two were switched around, right? So I definitely think the timing of that game has lent a lot to its popularity. Like I still think it's a good game. I still think it's good. I think it's got an okay story. I don't think the story's the best. I think it's just okay. I don't think many of the characters are that likable either. I don't think Cloud is likable. You can argue that he's not supposed to be likable, but I don't think that that's an excuse. I think a character can not be likable and you can still like them. I think
As a
I
character,
don't think
yeah.
those I don't think those two things like I don't think they have to go hand in like it's not mutually exclusive, right? You can be an unlikable character and still be likable to the player. See, I don't think the cast is particularly likable. I like Tifa. She's cool.
What about Aerith, Molly? What about the internet's favorite girl, Aerith?
She's okay. She is okay.
She's okay.
She's okay. I think the combat is okay. I don't think it's the best combat in the series either. And I think the FMV cutscenes are still gorgeous. I will stand by that. That game is what 25 years old at this point, 26 years old. Those full motion videos are still gorgeous. I still love watching them. It's still so interesting to me. But yeah, I don't know, and perhaps I'm being hypocritical because Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy, and it also happened to be my first. So maybe I'm being kind of hypocritical in that regard, but I think perhaps if things had been different, the game would not have been as highly regarded as it is. But that's just me.
What about the remake? Where does that fall in your opinions on Final Fantasy VII?
Oh, don't ask me this. I think that's just fine too. I have always preferred turn-based Final Fantasy to action RPG Final Fantasy, you know, like the sort of system that they've been working on between like 15, 16, 7 remake. I much prefer like the original 7's combat. I will always be a turn-based girly through and through. So I just thought it was okay. It is beautiful. It is like a gorgeous game. I think it does a better job of making some of the other characters likable. I like Aerith a lot more in remake, and I like Barrett a lot more in remake than I do in the original. But I think it's just okay. I think like I said, I just don't love the more like action RPG direction, and I got quite burnt out on the end, like towards the end of it, doing side quests. So
yeah,
it's a shame, but like I said, I still think it's good. I just think things may have perhaps been different if it released later.
Yeah. We went in similar directions in that I also picked a particular game out of a favorite series to bully. And again, this is maybe not a hot take, I could have picked one of the 2 games on either end of this series that are like extremely hyped, but unfortunately I think they deserve it on either end. So I've picked one in a different one that is not in fact as hype as the other ones, but any hype it has I still think is like mostly kind of undeserved, is Yakuza Kiwami and or Yakuza 1, also something that has a remake. So the first Yakuza series game, arguably Yakuza 0, which I love, more hyped. Also Yakuza 7, also loved, more hype. But I still think Yakuza 1, whatever love it has, is like, I don't fully understand. And anybody that I know, I will never advise to play those games in release order, starting with this game.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it gives people the wrong image of Majima Goro and they don't understand him as a character because they started with 0 and they think that he's like super serious and actually he's this like wackadoo for like the entire series. Yakuza Kiwami is like not a very well told story, and it's it like has a very different personality from the rest of the series that I think is a terrible entry point. And actually, credit to our own Phil Savage, who wrote the review for Yakuza Kiwami, and the subheader that he has on this review, he gave it a generous 74. Like, I think actually that was very nice of him. But the subheader he put on it, also fellow like extreme Yakuza liker, so you can trust Phil Savage. He said unintentional proof that the mid 2000s just weren't as much fun as the 80s, and like that's the whole summary of Yakuza Kiwami as a game. You go from the like bubble era 80s Japan that is depicted in Yakuza 0, that is just like money flying everywhere, glitz, glamour, like heart in all of its side quests. Like everything is these like goofy lessons about like family or found family or like, you know, children and just all of this silliness. And then you go to Yakuza 1 or Kiwami, and every side quest is just like about people getting like randomly hospital scammed for money, and like it's just and like there's no heart. It's just constant downer. Like everything is like sad and bitter, and it's a markedly shorter game than like coming off of 0. I spent like 30 hours finishing that game, which is fine. That's not really a mark against it. But just generally, like also the combat system in Kiwami, I think is worse coming off like other parts of the series. If you're coming from Yakuza 0, which was very heavily focused on the 3 fighting styles that you swap between for both of its protagonists, and just like pure brawler style combat, learning combos. Once you get to Yakuza Kiwami, it is a lot more focused on item usage and not just things that you pick up from these fights around you. Like in 0, you're picking up bikes and chucking at people. You're picking up like portable grills, and you're like shoving them in people's faces and like bashing them with ashtrays. And in Yakuza Kiwami, there's a bigger focus on storing items and weapons in your inventory and like pulling those out. And I just think the pure brawler stuff, like goofiness, like using what's around you, was so much more fun than like keeping items on a hot bar. But yeah, just all around. I mean, it is story-wise the entry point for like the rest of the main series. You get Kiryu like adopting Haruka, his like, you know, surrogate sort of daughter that he finds on the street in the city, and their little dog, and that sets up their relationship for the rest of the series. But man, like the villain, not great. His relationship with his sworn brother, Nishikiyama, is like, I don't understand how that story landed when that game was first released. I don't understand how that story was written and then launched the rest of a series, because they came back for the remake and added in scenes that better explained the relationship between them and like this villain's trajectory through the years when Kiryu was gone in prison. And without those scenes that get added in, who is this dude? Why do we care? Why does your protagonist care? The setup for the story is just like not great if you assume like the way that it was written originally. It's like, who is this guy? And why do we care about it? It is completely unbelievable. Who is this man? And if you start with 0, you know who the man is and you care about him like as a character, and like that sets it up so much better than the game itself like originally ever did, which is wild to me. So not the highest rated part of the Yakuza series for sure, or highest hyped, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to dunk on it a little bit. Nobody should play Kiwami first. You should always start with 0.
I think that's valid.
It is not as much fun as the 80s. That is amen. And then you go on to Yakuza Kiwami 2, which is just like, a breath of fresh air, like infinitely better than 1. And you just have to get through that like 30-hour plot to like chain those things on either side of it together, in my opinion.
That's kind of good to know, actually. That is kind of good to know.
When you get to it, Molly, when you finally play the Yakuza games,
eventually,
start with 0.
When I eventually get around to doing it, I was when you were doing the setup, I was fully expecting you to pick on a Dragon Age game. So
yeah, that would also be fair, but I guess I couldn't do it. No, this made more sense to me. What about what about underrated games? What deserves more love and more hype in your heart?
This one I really struggled with, because, you know, I'm trying to not let like recency bias factor in
Yeah.
as well, because I think that's super easy to do sometimes, is just think like 5 years back or
Yes.
so I was trying really hard not to do that. I kind of ended up doing that anyway. I also didn't want to just pick another Final Fantasy game because I think people were way too
Mollie's
mean about.
rankings of Final Fantasy.
I know. I think people were too mean about 13 when it came out,
Oh,
but
and I know you love that one. Yeah.
and I do like that one, but I'm not here to just be a Final Fantasy spokesperson. So I've been kind of stuck between two. I think there are two games that I
Okay.
sincerely believe deserve more recognition and just more like perhaps people have disregarded the games because of who they are made by or like how they're presented. So the first one, now I am not a Ubisoft enjoyer by any stretch of the imagination. Like I don't really play their games. I play Just Dance on my Switch.
Mm-hmm.
That's Ubisoft.
The dance
But
break of their show every year just for you.
yeah, exactly. That I love that. I love that stupid little Just Dance little choreography shtick every year. But no, I think it was last week's episode. I had said that I've never played the Assassin's Creed games or anything like that. I'm just generally not a fan of like the open world collectathon style game.
Mm-hmm.
Not really for me. However, Immortals Phoenix Rising
I
is
was
so much
wondering if you were going to say
fun.
that. Yeah.
It is so much fun. I played that game because a friend like shared his account with me and let me play. That's how I got to play. Because I wouldn't have played it otherwise. I would have just been like, it's a Ubisoft game. I'm not gonna play it. But oh my god, it is so good. It's so humorous in a way that I wasn't expecting. It is so wonderfully witty, so humorous. Like exploring the open world is actually a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed it. The puzzles are really fun. Like the little mini games that you can do are really fun. I I really liked it. I might have 100%ed that game, or at least I came very close to doing so. I know, which feels like so off brand for me. That doesn't to sort of wholeheartedly enjoy that game as much as I did. I don't know what I was expecting. I think they had a lot of trouble when it came to marketing the game as well. They had all like the naming trouble with they were
Yes, it did
originally
get
going to
renamed.
be called, was it Gods and Monsters?
Something like that. Yes. Yeah, something totally different.
Yeah, and then they got into like a little who was it with now? It wasn't with Monster, the energy drink, was it? I forget
No, surely
specifically.
not. I don't remember. I remember this all happening and like the news coming out about it as they were changing names, but oh gosh, I can't remember. I'll see if I can
Yeah.
look it up while you continue.
Yeah, I don't recall specifically why the name had to change, but for those of you who don't know, Immortals Phoenix Rising was originally called Gods and Monsters. They got into some naming dispute with somebody, and ended up having to change it. And I think that, first of all, Immortals Phoenix Rising sucks as a name. It is a terrible name for a game. It has done it no favors. And
Word
I think that
soup. Video game name word soup
it
for
is,
sure.
it's terrible. It does not tell me anything about the game. Even like Gods and Monsters, I think really like does not represent the tone that game has. That
Not at
game
all.
has such like a wonderfully like goofy tone to it. It's like all the gods are like just really like stroppy and like teenagery with each other. Like I really love it.
As Greek gods are meant to be.
Yeah, as Greek gods are meant to be. Like they're just like squabbling children the entire game in such like a wonderfully funny way. Did you find out why they
It
had to
was
change it?
fully Monster Energy. You were right.
It was. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Thanks, Monster Energy. Appreciate that. So yeah, that's my big one, I think. Especially as someone who does not traditionally enjoy those kinds of games. I think a lot of people wrote it off
Yeah.
for that
What did it get
reason.
steamrolled by? It's like it came out around something else that it just couldn't beat, and I can't remember what it would have been. but I'll try
I
to
think it
find
came
that
out
too.
around the same time as Cyberpunk. It was around.
Really?
I think it came out in like November. Immortals Phoenix Rising did. I think that came out like maybe like a month before Cyberpunk. It was definitely quite close to that game's release. Do you not know?
I'm looking. Let me Google so fast.
Yeah, I don't remember when it was.
You're correct. It was right in the middle of Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was December 10, 2020, if I'm remembering my facts right here. I'm trusting in the Google gods and everyone's aggregated information. And Immortals Phoenix Rising was days prior, December 3rd, 2020.
Oh,
So that is exactly what steamrolled it. You are correct.
yeah.
No wonder something more hyped took the conversation away for sure.
Yeah, perfect to our conversation.
We already talked about overrated.
We did. But yeah, you know, like I said, especially for someone who does not traditionally enjoy those games, who does not really engage with Ubisoft games, that was a big one for me to really enjoy. And you know, I don't think it helped itself. Like I said, like the name change didn't help, the marketing didn't help. I think they had to change the name very close to release. So that's my first one. My second one I'll make much shorter. Bugsnax.
Bugsnax.
You should all play Bugsnax. I feel like a lot of people wrote that game off because it looks a little janky. It looks kind of weird, but like not a good weird, like a bad weird, right? And I think because that game came out on the PlayStation 5, like right as the PlayStation 5 came out, it was like one of those games that was being given away for free. And I think that kind of automatically puts like a perception into people's heads, right? But almost everyone I know who has played Bugsnax has said how surprised they are by how good it is. It is a fantastic game. It's nice and short. It doesn't like overstay its welcome. It is just a fantastic game. That is a little janky in some aspects. It's not like a 10 out of 10, but it is so overlooked, I think, because it looks a little strange. And you know, it kind of came out like when Cyberpunk was dominating all the new stuff. So yeah, play Bugsnax.
That's funny you say that because my memory of Bugsnax was being inundated with it in that like new indie phenomenon fashion. So I don't know, I guess, what like general, like the rest of the public feels like their awareness of Bugsnax was when it launched. Like, did people feel like they were seeing it all over the place, or was it just us? Because writers were talking about it, like, Bugsnax, this is so weird and like so funny and interesting. And I was tired of hearing about Bugsnax by the time it came out. Maybe because of the song.
Cara Cara
maybe,
Bonito.
Yeah. Maybe that was it. I don't know. So I didn't even think of that as being like potentially underhyped, but I believe you.
Yeah, it was. How about you?
Let's see. Underrated, underhyped. Red Dead Redemption Online.
Oh,
I
okay.
think is Red Dead Redemption 2. Extremely hyped game. For everything I can tell, totally deserves it. I wouldn't know. I never played the story campaign. Never touched it. You know why? Because I was playing Red Dead Redemption Online. And I will say even the original Red Dead Redemption Online was fantastic. Loved it. Played it so much with a friend. Constant memories of like starting shootouts and like holing up in a fort and just like seeing how long we could last with just like rising wanted levels and constant dynamite everywhere. Those were great memories. And Red Dead Redemption 2's version of RDO, fantastic. So much fun. I think that it is completely underrated and underhyped compared to GTA Online, which just completely like sucks the attention of the player base, of Rockstar itself, of the news, of everything. Like all of the attention gets funneled to GTA Online, perhaps deservingly. I wouldn't know. I don't play it either. I played the Cowboys and Lassos game because I think it's very fun. But yeah, Red Dead Online it obviously equally as beautiful as the single player campaign, has this wide open map, things to do. I mean, and I played it essentially like an MMO. There are ways in which it felt that way. It's not a proper MMO. The servers are much smaller than that, of course, but there's a lot of just like constant in the wild interaction with other people. I love the different ways you can interact. You can like lasso people and just like sort of come up to each other and just like have a little joke exchange. It can sometimes turn violent. Sometimes there's a whole shootout in a town between 5 different players and different posses. There are hackers. Sometimes you get teleported to a creepy basement and exploded with a bunch of dynamite. And what are you going to do about that? Well, those things happen too. But it's really beautiful. There were lots of like activities to do with like running your like distillery, your like moonshine base, and like the other jobs you could pursue, being a bounty hunter, and just like constantly bringing folks in. I just think that it capitalized so well on the like beautiful map and like sandbox qualities it already had, and then sort of just let you make your own way with how you wanted to interact with it. I think it deserves so much more attention. Rockstar has basically put it to bed and said we're not going to update it anymore, which is a travesty. When it has like much better outfits than GTA Online. I don't care what you folks are painting your cars or wearing in GTA Online. The horse outfits and player outfits are so much better for sure in Red Dead Online. There was one other thing I was going to say about it, and now I've like completely lost what I was thinking about. Just the fact that there like still remains a small community around it is great and wonderful. It's a good time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that game still has like very dedicated group of people who've like really been advocating just for that online to still kind of exist in like a functional way, right? So
yeah. That's what I was gonna say, was a shout out to the horse posses, the horse loving gamers who do trail rides. I did a ride along with them at one point, like last year, the year before. Time is a lie. I don't remember when that happened. They were great and very welcoming. And the fact that Rockstar never capitalized on the horse taming and like whatever system that they already had in single player in order to give you a horse ranch a la the Moonshine Ranch, to capture horses and like tame them and bring them back to your little ranch and maybe like corral them, like do similar activities. Like, it was right there. It was right there. I fully believe that horse ranching could have saved Red Dead Online and made it.
That would have been sick. Like, why
sick.
do you think? Why do you think Red Dead Online has just not done as well as GTA Online? Do you think it's because there's like, I wouldn't say there's less you can do with cowboys, but it's somehow more within the realms of possibility to do something like putting a flying motorcycle into GTA Online, which is something that exists, right? I think they can break the boundaries with GTA Online a lot more, I guess. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I don't know if I could like pin a specific thing on it and get into Rockstar's head, because I feel like there's so many angles and so many reasons at a company of that size, right? Like, I mean, is it because of the budget and effort that existed on Red Dead Redemption 2 the way that it, the single player was? Is it because GTA Online was already established, and then so putting resources toward Red Dead Online was a secondary concern and it never really got the attention it could have? Is it player interest? Did it not get the player base that they thought it would? I'm really not sure what it was. Probably columns A, B, C, and a mystery D as well.
All of the above, yeah.
Yeah, all of the above, and then things I haven't thought of probably. But man, it's so beautiful. I love it. I like just riding around in Red Dead Online. What about games, Mollie? A game, I don't know how many you managed to pick this time, that is correctly hyped, correctly rated, something that like got hype and fully deserved it, or like, I don't know, medium and deserved that. But yeah.
Okay. See, I've written something down, and like I don't know how much I stand by it, but I don't know why I'm hesitating.
Don't undercut yourself. Tell me.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm hesitating on this. I think I am a firm believer that one of the best visual novels out there is Steins Gate.
Okay.
It is amazing, and pretty much everyone else thinks the same. Like, it's not one of those games that people are like shouting about from the rooftops, right? But I feel like every person you ask who has played Steins Gate, they'll be like, "That's amazing! Like, you should play it." Like, I love Steins Gate. I feel like it's one of those games that is like so beloved by like the visual novel community that is like rightly so, you know. Like, I love Danganronpa, for example, but I think that game has perhaps like extended beyond its deserved hype, right? I feel like and I feel like some other Danganronpa fans feel the same way about how sort of blown up and massive the hype around that series has become. But Steins Gate is one of those games that I think is just like so close to perfection. It is so close to perfection. So many other people think the same thing as well. It's one of those games that is just, like I said, it's so well loved, and it is very deserved to be as well loved as it is. It is one of the best stories, in my opinion, written ever. It's got one of the best plot twists in anything. Like, it is one of those games where, like, I will push people to watch the anime because it's quicker, but if you have the time to like sit down and do the visual novel, there are so many interesting tidbits that get cut out from the anime that you should definitely, if you've never played Steins Gate before and you've been like wondering like, is it as good as people say it is? Yes it is, and you should play it. So firm believer that Steins Gate has received the love and praise it deserves. And a game that I also think has been, a lot of people say it's overhyped, and again, I think it's the point of something becoming so popular that people start hating on it, and it's Minecraft.
Oh, really?
Minecraft to me is like there is a reason that people still play that game. God, how many years has it been now? It has been a long
14, 13. It's
been a long time.
It's been many.
It has been over a decade at this point. And I feel like there's still a reason so many people play it of all ages. There's a reason that like kids like 15, 20 years younger than me are picking that game up and getting into it for the first time. There's a reason why people my age, like in their mid to late 20s, who grew up with Minecraft, are still going back and playing it, right? It is one of those games that I think like some people will kind of like sit there with their arms crossed and they're like, oh, the game's crap, it's rubbish, it's so bad. It's like, but why is it bad? Like, give me a reason why you personally think it's bad. And you know, like, I feel like a lot of the time with a game like that, or with a game like Call of Duty or like FIFA, for example, you know, the latter two of which I'm not particularly huge on myself, but I feel like a lot of the time people can't come up with a substantial reason or like a sensible reason.
It's a feeling. It's a
yeah,
feeling.
it's just like, oh, you know, it's rubbish. Oh, it's boring. It's like, well, it's boring because you made it boring.
If you're boring, just say that.
Yeah, like you know, Minecraft is what you make it, and I think there's a reason that game is still relevant today. There's I think they've done a very good job of keeping up with like just how gamers interact with games now. You know, it's not quite the juggernaut that it used to be. And I know that, you know, games like Roblox and Fortnite have sort of surpassed the reach that Minecraft has at this point. But I think that is one of those games that so many people love, and for very good reason.
Yeah, speaking as the lady of search, I will tell you that Minecraft is still, like, quietly or not, like, absolutely a juggernaut. And it is deserved. You're fully right. I think we're, after this year's update, being the resident, like, still Minecraft person, but I don't play as much as I used to, like, we're in a period of like sort of dissatisfaction with at least the last update, maybe the last two. But frankly, that game has like only gotten bigger, better. The kinds of like secondary tools they've introduced have been like interesting
Yeah.
and great for like creating your own mobs and things like that. Like great stuff, still an excellent game. And yeah, it's I had a, as you were saying, like the all ages bit surprised me not too long ago when I was talking about like, oh, I think it was a news story I wrote about like some of the most popular YouTube videos of the decade or something like that. Like this might have been like 2 years, 3 years ago or something like that. Um, were like these Minecraft music videos that people would make, these like animatic
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
like which for you were like just the right number of years apart that you might have like
Yeah.
certain memories of these that I talked to my younger siblings. And these are whole adults that have nostalgia for these Minecraft music videos. And like I was
Yeah.
already an adult when Minecraft like came out and joined the world. And I have a totally different relationship. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember being a child on the internet obsessed with Minecraft, like goofy YouTube music videos that people made. So it is definitely enduring for a reason. I would say for me, my right rated game, again, I could have picked, like, I made myself not pick Stardew Valley. Everybody, yes, Stardew Valley
Yeah.
freaking deserves it. No, you're not allowed to disagree with me. It was a seminal game in its category for like a good reason. Also, like evidence of the changing tone of like the indie darling like style of
Yeah.
game that like gets that label, as it were. Stardew, totally different vibe, and like everything from the era of Braid indie games for sure. Um, so not Stardew, but yes, Stardew. Anyway, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Did you ever touch this one? Do you know it? It felt inescapable when it came out to me, but that time has ended. And I don't know if it still has like any remaining hype. It just like had its moment in like 2014, is which is 9 years ago. It came out like in the autumn of 2014.
I
I can't
I
believe that was so
do
long ago.
I do not know about this game.
This is a like this was early in the legacy of the walking simulator. This was not too long
Uh,
after,
it
say,
sounds
like
like
Dear
one.
Esther. 2014 was like right around that era. It's a mystery game where you're like solving deaths in this valley. It's a very beautiful game. The developers, the astronauts, are currently working on something new.
Ooh.
Witchfire, I think, is them. Um, they talked a lot about it, the process of like photogrammetry, like 3D like imaging, like objects like out in the woods and like turning it into the environment for this game. Anyway, super beautiful. It's a mystery game. I don't think it retains like hype in this year, in the year 2023, but it did in 2014. It was very, very hyped, and I think it deserved it. Chris Livingston reviewed it for us and gave it an 82, which I think like fully deserved. Very good game. You can have opinions about what the twist is at the end for sure. Um, but it was a really cool game at the time, and I think it like showcased some of what the walking simulator genre could do in just letting you be in a space, like find pieces of a mystery. It really didn't like forced you down a particular path. It just kind of wanted you to figure out what was going on. You like stumble upon, you're like an investigator who's come to this strange valley, and you're trying to figure out like the source of these murders by putting together like the scenes as you find them. You're like looking at ghosts of people and trying to construct what actually happened in order after you
Oh.
like pull pieces together. So yeah, it felt really, really hyped and very, very highly rated, definitely in its time, and I think it did deserve it, even if people don't so much remember it now, after a long legacy of simulators has followed after it. But yeah, that's my right rated game. Did you have other like honorable mentions? I think you got through most of yours.
Yeah. Right rated games. I also had as honorable mentions, I had Near Automata. I think that game is beloved for a very good reason. And The Walking Dead season 1, the Telltale. Walking Dead game. I think that game is like chef's kiss. I think that game is still like held in very high regard by a lot of people, and I think it's totally deserved. I played that game like a couple years after everyone else did, and I thought it was brilliant. Like, I thought it was really good. I don't think it was one of those necessarily that had to be played in the moment. Yeah, that's great. That's my my honorable mentions for right rated games, and my honorable mention for underrated is Mirror's Edge. That's a great game.
You were a Mirror's Edge enjoyer, yeah?
I'm a Mirror's Edge
Wait,
enjoyer.
did you say you said underrated?
Yeah, I think this was at a time when a lot of people were like yearning for open world, and people perhaps kind of lamented the game for being too linear, but I've played it like several times in the years since, and I have to disagree with that sentiment. 100%. I think that it is a fantastic game, and it's so beautifully presented, and that it's a bitch to play on PC these days, but if you're able to make it work, do it.
That's another one that I felt like was very, very hyped and very highly regarded in its time, but maybe it wasn't the way I remember. And again, maybe my experience was like fundamentally different from most people, like in the space that I was in at that time. I would say there were certain right rated games that I strayed away from just because we've beat them to death. Like, I was like, I can't talk about Valheim. I can't talk about Disco Elysium. I can't talk about anything we've chosen as game of the year that I have personally fought for in the last 3 to 5 years for sure. That would be boring. So went for some different things. But hey, I don't think we started too many fights. I mean, you did say Final Fantasy VII was overrated, but I'll let you answer for the consequences.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be like such a tepid take to a lot of people, and to like the diehard Final Fantasy VII fans, it's going to be like the most outrageous thing I've ever said. And all I'm saying is I played Final Fantasy 13 a lot more than I played Final Fantasy 7, and
there you have it.
There you have it. I feel like I've just disregarded my entire expertise with that one sentence, but there you go.
No, you are a true expert of Final Fantasy. You look beyond the hype. You know what's legit. Thank you, Mollie, for picking out some of our over, right rated games, rated, hyped, things that maybe don't have your attention that should, and things that you're fully right about. Fully right to like Minecraft.
Yes,
still
100%.
In this day and age. Mollie.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.